So, welcome everyone to our session for this afternoon. We've got Anjali from Acoynte Books has graciously sorted out a panel talk for us for International Women's Day, which I'm really excited about. Sorry, there's been a problem with the link. I think that's been sorted now, and hopefully people have been able to get on board. We've now got 110 participants, so it's looking like the list has gone through, so that's good. And I think there'll still be a few more probably coming in as we commence. So that's great. If you know people who aren't in, if you can just direct them to the RS team page, the link's on there, and that should get everybody in to the talk, which would be great. So what I'd ask you to do while the talk or the panel talk is running. Feel free to use the chat, but obviously just be mindful that it's going to pop up on the screen potentially and distract people. So don't use it for sort of inane chatter. There are plenty of other things that you can use for inane chatter if you want to. And if you do have a genuine question that you want to ask in the Q&A at the end of the session, just pop that into the Q&A section and that will come up, and my glamorous assistant Pete will be able to help me with that later on as we field some questions into the panel. We hope you enjoy today's session. A massive thank you to the panellists for taking part, because we've got panellists from all over the world, so it's random times, I think, for some of these panellists today. Thank you for joining us on our 15th Confetti Industry Week. Don't forget, if you've got other events that you want to book into, they're still available, and you can pop in online and book in by going to iw.confetti.ac.uk. Make sure that when you do log in for events and register for events that you're using your Confetti or NTU email address. Any emails that aren't Confetti or NTU ones are filtered out, so it means you might not be able to get access to the events that you book into. As part of Confetti Industry Week 2021, we're running a competition where you can win some cool prizes. All you have to do is tag us on Twitter or Instagram using hashtag IW21 and share your experiences throughout the week. So obviously take a screenshot of one of the talks, maybe share or a picture of yourself watching one of the talks. I don't know what you want to do. I guess the prizes will go to the most entertaining ones. So I noticed somebody had posted very early on in my talk at 9 o'clock, somebody had posted a picture of some Krispy Kreme donuts and their screen at 9 o'clock, and I have kudos for people that have Krispy Kreme donuts at 9 o'clock in the morning. I think that shows some good dedication. Anjali, if you can hang around afterwards as well, we'll just do a little bit of talking at the end, just to sort of debrief and get some bits and bobs from you all, and the rest of the panelists as well, of course. And then now I'm going to hand over to Anjali to take it away.
Hi everyone, hi, I'm Anjali, Marketing and Publicity Manager for Acoynte Books. I'm really excited today to talk with some wonderful women in the gaming industry and hopefully give you a little bit of insight into the different opportunities that there are available for you and the different ways that you can get involved with the gaming community. Yeah, I'm Anjali. I'm based in Nottingham, so Acoynte Books are Nottingham based, and we write, sorry, that's my bird. we write world expanding fiction based in the most popular board games, card games, and video games. So we write books in Arkham Horror, Legend of the Five Rings. We also write for Ubisoft, so their Assassin's Creed stories, and also Marvel. So we write official new prose novels in the Marvel universe. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So let's go round. And Lauren, would you please introduce yourself to the panel, the world?
Happy to. Hi, my name is Lauren Napomaseno. I am based out of Chicago, Illinois, and I am the Director of Communications and Board of Directors at XYZ Game Labs. We are an indie board game publishing company. We're only been around for 4 years, but we have some pretty heavy hitting titles under our name. So we first started out with Robot Lab, which is a kid-friendly card game. We launched Inoka, which is a card clashing fighting chipmunk game, and we built the lore of fighting chipmunks. Our third title is a Borderlands Tiny Tina's Robot Tea Party, where it's a licensed game where we worked with Gearbox Software and Nirvana Games to publish. And then our latest and greatest success right now is Arch Ravels, which we fulfilled to our Kickstarters this week. And it is a board game about knitting and crocheting. And so our goal is to invent new gamers, and we do so by making it representative, colorblind accessible, as well as targeting niche audiences like the Borderlands fans and fiber arts. And yeah, that's it for my intro.
Excellent. Chloe, then, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I am a game and theatre maker is the easiest way to describe it, because my background is in theatre and a lot of live gaming. So kind of theatrical mega games, interactive and immersive shows that have a lot of game aspects to them, pervasive street games. But I've also done some digital work. I was a resident digital artist with a theatre company, Headlong, for 2 years, during which I made an audio game. I've just finished about 4 months of coding a text adventure game for a theatre company who were making an online experience mixing text adventure and Zoom calls with live performers. And I've also worked kind of with tabletop role-playing games, both as live performance, as streamed performance, and also as a writer of tabletop role-playing games for about 4 years now. So it's lots of different things, but often I'm slightly on the more pen and paper or people in a room together side of things, but in slightly different contexts.
Excellent. Damn, everyone's really cool. My intro is rubbish in comparison. Mary, tell us about you.
Hi, yes, I'm Mary. I am a game designer at Exploding Kittens. And before that, I was the founder and still am the founder of Hajduk. And last year we had launched and successfully funded 2 zine projects, Dreamworld Mercenaries and The Great Bork Team. One is about dog sledding and one is inspired by Inception. So 2 mini projects that were in the works for quite a while, and we sort of I've sort of been going to conventions for even longer than that. So yeah, I think short and sweet, that's me.
Perfect. And Janet.
Janet cannot find the red buttons. So I am Janet. I am the founder and director of World Anvil, which is the biggest and most complete world building platform, campaign manager, and novel writing software out there right now on the internet, in the internets. We currently have 1.3 million users, which we have accrued in 3 years. So that has been quite the journey. In addition, I'm a roleplay games writer. So I'm currently writing the Dark Crystal RPG with the Henson Company and River Horse Games, which is an amazing, amazing thing to be working on, like digging into all of that lore. And I'm also working for Cobalt Press as a freelancer, doing a little bit of writing for them as well. So a little bit of RPG development, a lot of world building, and with the world building, we work with video games companies as well as tabletop games companies. So really the whole spread of gaming within a second world setting or an alternate Earth setting, essentially. So yeah, that's me.
So jealous about that Dark Crystal. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be amazing. River Horse as well, a Nottingham-based company. So they're around here too. Very, very exciting stuff. Okay, so this panel today is about champion diversity and inclusion within the gaming industry. I've tried to bring together women from across the industry to share with you their experiences and hopefully inspire you to kickstart a career in the gaming industry. Before we get into the questions, I'm just going to give you a few facts that I found on the UK games industry census. So 46% of gamers in the 30 countries that they took the census to identify as female. There are over 1 billion female game enthusiasts in the world, but only 24% of the game developers identify as female. So hopefully in this discussion, we can maybe delve into that a little bit and see if we can like raise those numbers. That would be very, very good. So from those facts, you can tell that the gaming industry is still a very male-dominated one to work within. Women are less likely to see themselves represented in games, and as such, it can be off-putting going into the industry. So I'd like for you all to just take a moment to tell us why you decided to get into this industry and how you got into it as well. So yeah, what was the thing that made you want to be in it, and what paths did you take to get to where you are now? We'll go around again in the same order. So Lauren.
Yeah, sure. So I've always played board games growing up as a kid. You know, just with the neighborhood kids, we all had games. And then as well in college, it kind of really picked up once I started playing like Settlers of Catan and, you know, all these board games, Pandemic, great games out there in the college dorm. And then after college, I kind of got busy with life, trying to figure out what I do with a career. And actually by day, I'm a technologist. So I'm a tech consultant and product owner. And so I worked in a tech consultancy, and I saw that my developers were playing board games during their lunch hour. And I got to meet up with them, and I was like, I want in, I want to play. Turns out that 3 of them started XYZ Game Labs, which is the company I work at. And they said that they needed someone who was good at communication, someone to manage their social media, their email, to also drive their culture of the company. And so, yeah, so I got finessed into co-owning indie board game publishing company, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because it is truly exciting being both a business analyst / product owner in technology that is also a male-dominated field, and being a product owner / project manager / director of community. I wear many hats because we're a small company at XYZ Game Labs, to, you know, making both, you know, analog products and digital products, right? So yeah, I got into board gaming because, you know, just by chance, but also it was a passion of mine that was kind of reignited through, you know, lunch hour board gaming. But really, right now, I feel like it is so important for me to be part of this community, not just to exist in it, right? Like, I have to be an active member of the gaming community, because it's my responsibility as a woman and as a woman of color to speak out and to inspire and to educate. So yeah, that is my 2 cents on that. I'm so honored to be part of any panel and to really speak up and to share my experiences, because you just never know who's watching, and you never know who you're inspiring. And so, you know, we really strive for that kind of mentality and intention as well with our products.
Thank you. That's lovely. Chloe, let's hear from you.
So a tiny bit of clarification, just so no one kind of like goes on my socials or follows me afterwards and goes, this person lied. I am agender. However, for about 29 years, I identified as a woman. I was raised as a woman. I was socialized as a woman. And I've also only been actually out as agender for a few months, but I still present very femme and I can read as female. So most of my experiences are more colored by a female identity than my agender identity. Yeah, just so that no one like saw my socials afterwards and was like, what? So I came into games through working in theatre, which was something I'd always wanted to do. And it was really about being able to tell stories in new and different ways. I first got involved in tabletop games kind of late compared to a lot of people in my mid-20s, because I decided, after doing a lot of work working for other people and making their projects happen, I wanted to do one of my kind of fantasy projects, which was I wanted to do a marathon Dungeons and Dragons game at the Edinburgh Fringe. which was 250 hours long. So we spent 10 hours a day for 25 days playing Dungeons and Dragons with DMs on rotation. And we had several hundred people play as part of that game because people switched in each hour. And it was an event where people could watch, they could come and play. We had people with such different backgrounds and experiences come to play this game, like people who'd never played before, like young teenage boys with their families in the audience, kind of starting to get a first taste of what this was, that their hobby was, like parents and children and people who'd played since like first edition. And that all came out of a place of me just going, what are some new interesting ways of telling stories with people? Because often the theatre that excites me most is the stuff that involves people and interacts with people and is less like people on a stage and people watching. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I'm very much someone who, both in life and generally and with my work, I chase the shiny thing. Like I really wanted to do theatre, so I worked in theatre. I found some people making interactive stuff and I thought that was really cool, so I started collaborating with them. I thought Twine looked like a fun thing to learn, so I learned Twine, which ended up in me getting this text adventure coding job. And it's always been for me that it's something that I still find a really exciting creative challenge. I never get bored by it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that kind of keeps me here, is that I still find it really exciting. And yeah, just finding different ways of telling stories and getting other people to be creative as well, I find really fun. So I think that's kind of my general perspective.
That's good perspective. Yeah, it's interesting as well because you're from a very different background to, like, I imagine most people with a theatre background. Although Jenny, you've got some things as well, so I won't spoil those. Mary, it's your go. Angela, be quiet.
Yeah, so I'm going to preface this with, I've been in academia for quite a long time. I originally got a bachelor's in fine art, so for a very long time I thought I was going to be a print/ceramicist. And then I went into a field of visual storytelling because I wanted to talk about what it was like to be American Romanian and sort of that weird bubble that I existed in, being in New York, but being really like devoid of people my age of the same culture. So through that exploration, I ended up in games because I ended up making an alt controller, a cabinet really, based on one of the characters, and I worked with a programmer to make the entire story, and there was just something so magical about that, about just having something that was so unusual and so unique to what I was interested in that I had not seen in many other games. I think maybe through Maker Faire or through the tech industry, there were other alternative cabinets and stuff like that that I could start seeing like different ways of telling stories. So that slowly sort of trickled over into, then I went to NYU for a degree in game design, where just it blew everything wide open. I had been working on physical games that you play in an outdoor space, to digital, to tabletop, and it was just, it was something that I never thought I would be in. Like when I originally started, I guess, my journey, I thought I was going to like work in mechanical engineering a long time ago. I thought I was going to work with robots. So life's wild. I don't know what to tell you. Like, just go along with the ride, like trust your gut on it. And I think working on mini projects was the most helpful thing, because I slowly started building up competency with a lot of different programs, like you just heard, a lot of different tool sets. And so I just became this like katamari of like, who knows how to do this? And I was like, yeah, I can do this. And also I want to do this. Let's make something super weird together. So that's been my journey. And I think that's how, how I ended up working for Exploding Kittens too, because not only did I have a perspective that wasn't represented, I also was just very game to do absolutely anything. So yeah.
That's really cool. I'm really enjoying this, like just listening to like all the different ways that people have got into this huge industry that we have. Like, you know, my own personal thing is I worked in a bookshop and they sold board games. And when I left the bookshop, I said, I want to go work in the place where the board games are sold. And they just happened to be down the road. So it's a really short story. Janet's is more interesting. Janet.
Yeah, so I love Mary's story because, and Mary's point of you never know quite where life is going to lead you, because, so like I started playing D&D when I was 10, and then I stopped for a while. I've always loved writing. I'm also a novelist, and I became an opera singer because that's what I did. So I used to be an opera singer. I'd sit in the green room and write novels, and then I'd go on stage and sing whatever I was singing that night. And I was having this terrible trouble with my world building, and I spoke to my husband about it, who was then my partner, and he said, okay, let me make you something that will help you. Let me make you like a database system which will help you organize all the world building, right? Because the problem was essentially I was trying to world build in a single Word document that just was 101 pages long, and it kept crashing, and like the stuff at the top conflicted with the stuff at the bottom, because world building is not a linear process, right? So he said, okay, I have this idea, it'll help you. We sat down and said, okay, so there should be templates, and they should work like this, and this should work like this, and that should work like that. And we really crafted it together. And I continued singing opera because that was my job, and teaching and doing all the other things that I did. And then this project that we'd made together went absolutely mental on the internet. Holy crap. So we went from like, nobody is interested or has heard of us because it's day one, to we have 1,000 users, to we have 10,000 users in a few months. And there was this sort of massive snowball effect. And what had just been a hobby and a culmination of my love of writing and my love of D&D and my husband's love of tabletop gaming, suddenly it became this massive community that needed taking care of, and people were coming to us and saying, can we work with you? And I was like, oh crap, I have a new job. So I worked side by side for a while. And eventually it became clear that, you know, I had to step away from the singing if I wanted to make World Anvil work, because there simply were not enough hours in the day, which, yeah, has become a theme for my life. But one of the wonderful things that I learned from the music industry is that if somebody says, can you do this? You say yes. So can you sing a contemporary opera in a toilet? Yes. Can you sing while somebody has strapped giant horns to your head? Yes. Can you sing in a 5-foot dress? Yes. And that mantra has really taken me far, because when people came to me first off and said, can you write an RPG? I was like, well, I've written my own RPG stuff and I've written novels, but I've never written an RPG. But yes, I could write an RPG, and that has stood me in such good stead for my own career. And I would, anyone listening, if you think you can, say yes. If you think it's possible, even if it's an opera in a toilet, say yes. I exaggerate, obviously, but yeah, and that was very much how everything happened, is that, you know, somebody said, would you like to participate on this thing? Yes, I'd love to write a micro setting with you. And then somebody saw it and said, would you like to write the Dark Crystal RPG? You know, that's how it works. So that has very much been my career path. It's just kind of working really hard and saying yes whenever somebody asked me to do something cool, essentially, which is, of course, why I'm here today as well.
Excellent, excellent. I'm glad you said yes. I'm glad you all said yes. Yay. Okay, so working in the gaming industry is wonderful, obviously, because we get to be creative and we get to talk to creative, cool people. But there are some challenges. I'd like to just maybe talk for a moment about some of the larger challenges that we as women face within the industry today. And how can we meet that challenge? And is there a solution? What would the solution look like? I'm going to do like a hands up for this. So if you want to talk, just put your hand up and I'll moderate that in. So if anyone wants to get started on. Janet, go.
So I spend my life talking to men with beards. No, I love men with beards. I married one. He's great. He's awesome. I mean, I'm bisexual. I absolutely did not have to marry a man with a beard, but I like men with beards. But I spend my entire day talking to men with beards. And in general, I have found in meetings that men are very confident to say what they want to say, even if they are talking over somebody else. This has been my experience. It has been my personal experience. It may not be true for everyone. And so I said, we're not doing this. I said, we're going to have a hands up system in Zoom calls because it is the only way to make sure that everybody gets heard in the order that they have the thought, in the order that they would like to position themselves. And yeah, I think that a lot of being a woman in the gaming industry, assuming that you are working with people who want to cooperate with you, there we go, is saying, I am uncomfortable, I want to be heard. Let's sort this out so everybody can be heard. Let's fix this. Because if I feel like I'm being talked over, I'm gonna cause a fuss because I don't want to be talked over. And I don't think anybody in the room should be talked over. And you know what? Now all of our business meetings, the big ones with lots of people, have a hands up system, and it's way more efficient because everybody is heard. I think it's just one example. It's just a small example, I think. But yeah, that was a really big realization for me. The fact that, you know, I can just say, hey, this isn't fine. What if we do this? And if you're lucky, everybody in the room will say, great, let's try it.
Yes, Lauren, yeah.
I'd say the largest challenge that I've seen in the industry today is the reluctance to make the industry more diverse or to grow the industry. One of the biggest challenges is that, you know, I've spoken to several publishers or designers, and they might have a different opinion where they said, oh, women don't like games, or oh, Black people don't like games, or oh, yada, yada. So they gatekeep without even thinking about it by saying, well, we don't need to market to them. They don't like our games. And at XYZ, our goal is to invent new gamers. So we don't care about that mentality. So it's just like, it doesn't have to be that way. And that's one thing that with any publisher who has that power and ability to introduce hobby gaming to other people, you know, I encourage everyone to really consider that. So, you know, I think the largest challenge, honestly, at least for our company, and I think we're doing a good job of that, is, you know, inventing new gamers. It's easy to market a game to an existing gaming audience. It's easy to design something that is for an existing audience. The hard thing is to invent new people and to really grow the industry and to invite people with welcoming arms and to build a product that's really meant for them. And, you know, I think that, not to toot our own horn, but like our travels, like board game about knitting and crocheting, so many crafters have been saying, I don't play games, but I played this 4 times this last weekend. And that is just like, that is all we needed to hear. That is our goal. And even if one person is saying that, then we've met our goal. And it takes a lot more work, and it takes diverse teams to build diverse products. You can't just, you know, I don't know, throw diverse artwork and call it a day. That's not how it works. It requires real product design and real game design, and taking a let's say, taking just a design and commercializing it to an audience and publishing it is a totally different story. And it takes user research, user interviews, and truly understanding the culture. So 2 years before we really released our travels, I was in all these knitting and crochet groups. I interviewed knitters and crocheters. I was like, what are your biggest challenges? What is the mantra of being a fiber artist? Like, what is your pride and joy? What are your key values? What are your beliefs? What are some important hot topics for you guys that we should include? What are your memes? I wanted to know all of that because I wanted to make a product designed for them, and not just a crafters product, but like a gamer's game as well, right? So, you know, and once you think about human first product design, it's so much easier to make a successful product. It's just so much easier. So yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. And that is my solution for targeting niche products and for good product design in general.
Oh yeah, go Chloe, yeah.
Sorry, that was me just taking ages to unmute. Just like kind of briefly to build on what both Lauren and Janet have said, I think one of the big issues or big difficulties is that simple first step of women getting involved and feeling comfortable enough to just step into the space. Because if it's a space where you don't see yourself represented, or as I've experienced at some cons, I'll go up to like look at what a game might be like, and all the artwork includes a variety of masc or male figures and a very specific singular femme or female figure. And that doesn't feel like that is a space for me, or a space that includes me, or has been thought to include me. There's a story that's probably apocryphal about a game module being written and someone going, oh, I want to, this is so male heavy, I'm going to flip it. And it meant that there were no male characters in that module, and all the players did was look for the male characters because there's got to be some conspiracy because there's only women in this place. And I think there's kind of two bits to it, and there is making it so that women are visible, they are represented, so that you can see that this is a space that women can exist in, to encourage more women in. And I think another thing, kind of tapping into what Janet was saying about saying yes, is that there is often a conditioning with women of not being as confident and not being as forthright and not being encouraged to be like that. Like there's been weird studies about applications within theatre where men will typically apply when they have less experience than is stated on the job specification, and women won't. And so part of that is both women being emboldened to have that confidence, and I think also that's just, if you can tell a woman that she is amazing, like you loved that game that she made, or she's an incredible DM, she should look into this thing because you think she'd be great for it, and just boosting up other women's confidence, then I think that also will help a lot.
Got to hit unmute. Yep, Janet.
Sorry, I just wanted to pile on that with some more examples, because this is a massive thing that I have seen in our community. So obviously we have a big old community. We've garnered it to feel very safe and welcoming for everyone. And within that community, we have a lot of people who are either professionals or are going professional. And for those people, I try to shift them opportunities. So if people ask me to do something and I simply can't fit it in my calendar, I will say, I can't do it, but do you know who'd be awesome? My World Anvil beans. And I have consistently seen that when I send exactly the same messages to men and women, nobody is named, these are small sample groups, I just want to be very clear, I don't want to victimize anyone here. Men say, thank you, men say, I've emailed them. And women say, thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's often followed by, oh, I'm not sure if I'm good enough, or, oh, I don't know if I can pluck up the courage to talk on a podcast, or this kind of thing. And I spend time messaging them saying, say yes, just do it. It's great practice. You have to learn this. And again, I'm lucky because I'm also half American. So like, I have this in my blood, right? I'm a theatre person and I'm loud and I will just go. But I am aware that not everybody has my background. Like, I know this. And I think that with a lot of women, there's not somebody like me in your DM saying, you can do it, you can do the thing, apply now, go, I believe in you. So you have to be doing that for yourself. You have to remember to sell yourself as much as you are worth. Do not undersell yourself. My mother is a very important academic, doesn't need mentioning more than that, but she tells me that women consistently undersell themselves in academia as well. It's a problem everywhere. I don't want to diagnose society, but this is a symptom that I see everywhere. Women, be proud of yourselves. Go out there, shout about what you've done and apply for stuff. The worst that they will do is say, not now, but we'll keep you on file, right? Go, be brave.
Mary.
I also want to say it's okay to say no to things. So when you do get an opportunity to work in the games industry, there's the potential that it's not actually the position you see yourself in, and you could be you could try your hardest to prove that you are worthy of a position that a male colleague has that does not have your experience, that does not have your skill set, and talk is cheap, basically. If your employer seems like they're well-meaning and stuff, well, okay, I'm going to ask you next month, can I do this now? Can I design games? If not, that should speak pretty loudly for itself. And it's hard, but you should walk away from it. Like, if it is not something that, if it is not a position that like values you and what you can bring to the table, just, you have to acknowledge that and walk away and do something else instead, because it is likely not going to benefit you to try to fight against well-meaning. So that's that.
Yeah, Lauren, yeah.
Just to piggyback on all of that, I did not get into tech consulting on my own, actually. The reason why I even became a tech consultant is because my boyfriend, who believed in me, saw I was really unhappy with my previous job and I needed to get out. It was so toxic that I needed to get out. And I didn't believe I could get this role. And he's like, Lauren, I'm just going to apply for you. And he just applied for me. It's like, oh, 5 years experience? Sure, he applied for me. And I was like, what am I even being interviewed for? Like, I had no idea like what the recruiters were calling me for. And you know what? It was great. Like, I ended up becoming a tech consultant because he believed in me more than I believed in myself. And it's ridiculous. Like, so I'm just saying that, you know, totally lean on your previous experiences. People, especially in technology, don't necessarily want a computer science degree. They want people who are well-rounded and creative and who can think critically. And there's a lot more to technology than just coding. There's strategy as well. And that requires cohesive set of skills that I learned from like a liberal arts degree. I'm a political science economics double major. Like, I don't know how to code, yet I consult my clients on how to do large digital transformations and how to drive projects and culture and communicate with the entire organization what's going on. But yeah, like, you know, like Mary said, like, not every role is going to be perfect. And you just got to listen to yourself. And it's just like, okay, this is not an environment for me. I'm not going to succeed in this environment. And that's another question I always ask my interviewers, like, how will you set me up for success before I join your organization? How will I be able to lean in? Who are the support system people that I could lean into when I get there, day one? Okay. And you should be asking that day minus, 2 weeks, however many times, you get interviewed, because really sometimes they'll feed you to the wolves and you're on your own, and that's terrible. And that's the thing, like, it, just because, they hired a woman and, oh, we're diverse now, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're set up for success. And the whole thing is you should feel comfortable and confident in that role. So no matter where you go, just make sure that, you ask those kind of questions, because you should hold them accountable as well for your success.
Yeah, and I think it's like what you were saying about like education and the qualifications that you get don't always feel like, because of the particular degree that you got, that you can't go into this. My degree is in forensic chemistry. I studied here at NTU. I am not a forensic chemist, you may notice. I left university just as the recession hit. There were no jobs in the police or in science. I joined a bookshop, started working in a bookshop, managed a bookshop. Joined the gaming community, started playing Dungeons and Dragons, being more active online, talking to people, going to conventions, getting people to recognize who I was. And when I joined Asmodee, I started in the sales team, moved into the purchasing team pretty quickly because sales wasn't for me. And as soon as the job came up with Acoynte Books, who are also part of Asmodee, I immediately said, that's me. And then the job was marketing and publicity. The only experience I have in that is managing my own social media feeds, talking to people, going to conventions, doing online stuff like this. But you know, I managed to beat however many people out of the job because I walked in and said, well, I don't have traditional experience, but this is how the forensic science part of it taught me how to do this. This is how this taught me to do this. Just because I don't have exactly what you're after doesn't mean that I can't prove to you that I can do those things. And that's really important as well. So if life takes you on a different track, you can always come back here. Like, there's nothing stopping you. So what's your favorite thing about working in the industry, everyone? Because there's so much good stuff. What is your most favorite thing? And we'll do hands up again. Chloe, yes.
I think my most favorite thing kind of comes back to games as a means for people to be creative and tell stories themselves. Basically, when I did that initial Edinburgh Marathon, we did it 3 years in a row, but the second and third ones were much shorter. You would sometimes see this kind of thing click in people's heads because they'd be new to Dungeons and Dragons, they'd be new to tabletop games, like a friend had bought them a ticket, they'd be sat on a stage, they'd be next to someone who knew what was going on to help them out. And there'd always be like a little moment in the shows or in the gameplay where it clicked that they could describe anything. They could like try to do anything, you know, within the world that they were in. And there was always that moment you saw kind of go off in people's heads, and then like they would give the most like incredible descriptions of like one arrow pinging around an entire pirate ship, like ricocheting and doing all sorts of stuff, or they'd give the most incredible like improvised little poems because they'd been a bard or something. And for me it always comes back because I also, in like the live games that I do, which are either like mega games that are kind of increasingly theatrical, that kind of thing, it is so much fun improvising with players and with people who you've no idea what they're going to do, because you haven't had a chance to think, like they do stuff in games that you never would have predicted. And for me it's always that, like it's just so fun to see what things individual people bring to a game or to telling a story.
Janet, yes.
I think for me, it's really the transformative power of gaming. So again, I'm very lucky in that, you know, we have this big community, but we try and make ourselves as available as possible. And that means people know us by name around the community. And so I get these messages that say things like, I've just started creating my own world for my game, and it's the first time I've been allowed off my anti-anxiety medication, or my therapist says that I'm well enough to come off my depression medication now. It's the people who say, oh, I played this character and it taught me this. It's the people who come forward and say, this was the thing that actually helped me come out. This was the thing that said, okay, I'm brave enough to say that I'm bisexual, or I'm brave enough to say that I'm gay, or I'm trans, or whatever it is. And I think it's completely magical. And it's the same transformative power that I was in a meeting the other day with a lot of men with beards, and we were sitting around talking about RPGs, and we just stopped for a moment and said, but isn't it so cool? Isn't this thing that we're working on so cool? And you saw these men, serious men with beards and suits, just become children who were filled with joy. That is why I am in the gaming industry, because I write a lot of emails and do a lot of boring crap as a director and a CEO. But that transformative power of gaming, it is so powerful. And for me, that makes it worth it. For me, for everybody playing games, for everybody I get in contact with, it's that joy. And I think we could all use a bit more joy right now.
Oh, yeah, Lauren, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the similar lines. So at conventions, my favorite part of this industry is seeing face-to-face interactions and people's reactions to the games that we work so hard on, because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. There's a lot of effort that like a lot of consumers don't realize, like how much time and effort and care and intention is put into each game. And when they see it for the first time and it's like, oh, I see myself in this game, or this game was made for me, like that, those little sound bites just like tickle my heart in all sorts of ways. And it's like the thing that like motivates me every day to show up and to continue doing this on top of my day job, which is very chaotic. But like, yeah, this is it. It's probably my favorite thing about this industry is making really cool stuff. I like making cool stuff. I don't like making boring stuff or stuff that's been done. I like, maybe I like to rock the boat a little too much, but that's okay. I like doing interesting things and building cool products, and it's awesome. So yeah, like there's a lot of liberation in that, and I get to experience, my creative side as well, working in this industry and taking cool pictures and coming up with witty social media captions. So
Yeah, Mary.
So yes to everything everyone has said so far. And in addition, it feels really good to be the tiny small booth next to like FIFA. Like there is no more satisfying thing than being like, you shouldn't be here, and yet I am here with like nothing but like a tiny little zine that I've hand stapled on the table. And you get so much enjoyment out of playing like something as simple as like a one-page RPG, or like the teeny tiniest thing, because it's not about that. It's about the community. It's about who you're speaking to. It's about changing someone's day or perspective, or just opening up their expectations of what games are. So I enjoy being like the weird tabletop games or alternate controller person next to some really big titles, because the opportunity is there. I just have to, work through part-time jobs to make it there. But the payoff is wonderful.
I think I agree. Like, I do miss conventions a lot. Like this last sort of year without them has been like, yeah, so hard, because normally I'm at like all of the gaming ones, all of the RPG ones, and I'm at, because I do a lot in the miniatures community as well, so I'm at war game ones, and I'm just going to Warhammer World, and just miss peopling. And I think like that's my favorite part, is being able to just be around a whole load of nerdy people and be talking about something and not have to explain the thing that you said, because they know what you're talking about, and you're like, these are my people, these are my humans. And I that's one of my favorite things, is that you just get to be with all these wonderful people. And in our office we've started a daily team meetup, just to make sure we can like stay in contact with each other. And that's what I do miss about being in the office, is that I work with such wonderful creative people who love making books and who love playing games, and we just get to talk and be like cool nerds, and I miss it a lot, and I'm sure everyone else does as well. Oh, come on. Okay, so how do we use our influence as people on the internet to influence and help new femme-presenting gamers join the industry and join the community as well? Because I think we've all sort of alluded to the online community is massive, and it is 99.9% wonderful. How do we convince more people to come over to the good side where the cookies are?
So I've said this once before on a panel, and I got question marks from it, but like my DMs are always open, and I mean that. Anytime someone's interested in understanding how to get to a place, because I had almost no guidance on how to get there. I just asked a lot of questions, and it's hard sometimes to know what questions you even have about it. So conversation helps that, and figuring out what your goals are with what specifically about gaming do you like? Is it streaming? Is it performance? Is it writing? Is it drawing? Like there's so many aspects of it. And you can sort of be spinning your wheels trying to figure out what is best. But if you reach out and ask someone who's actually in that position, it's the fastest and easiest way of understanding what that entails and if it's right for you. So yeah, I'm always open for mentorship. I do it with particular organizations like the IGDN in the US, but that is a very straightforward way to help immediately. Yeah.
Lauren, yeah.
Oh, I thought I saw Chloe first, but I guess I'll go. So I would say, again, like similar to Mary, anyone could reach out. I did not know what I was getting myself into, and I fell into this role and I created it. But, yeah, when you're trying to get to join the industry, I would highly recommend joining the Facebook groups, joining all the online communities that are available. There's so many more of us who are willing to help as well. So don't be shy to ask. It is really a welcoming community. And then also too, if you are a designer, if you want to start designing your games, one organization that XYZ sponsors is Protospiel, and they have an online gaming community, and that is a great place to test out your prototypes. And it's literally one of the most welcoming communities. Like you could literally show up with just like, all right, I stayed up till 3 a.m. and I cut out these cards. I just sleeved them like a minute ago. Let's try it out. And it can be totally like, rough draft of your design. And that's totally acceptable. Right now, I think they're mainly using Tabletop Simulator to playtest digital games, but explore digital options right now for a pandemic if you want to get into design and try to get it online and invite people, to test them. But honestly, I for early designers, I cannot speak more highly of the Protospiel community. They know that this is something that you've worked on that's close to your heart, that you might not have shared it with anyone, like including your family or friends. They know that it's a gentle to approach designs very gently, and that it's a work in progress. And it's a very respectful and positive and supportive community for for all designers.
There's another one called Desperately Seeking Playtesters on Facebook. They're also very good, small community for helping you with your playtesting as well. Chloe, yes.
A couple of places I'd recommend people look to. If you're London-based, TIN, the Tabletop Industry Networking Group, who I found monstrously welcoming and lovely and helpful. The Tabletop Mentorship Program, which has a really good thing in that, because I was on that as a mentee last year, and you can specify if you have a preferred gender for your mentor, because that makes that's made quite a big difference to me, because my professional experience, I mean, a lot of this is in theatre, is that, I was an assistant director 14 times. I was an assistant director to a woman once out of all of those. And it can make a really big difference just actually having a real woman to look up to. So those are some places, I think, in terms of like things that we can do to help encourage more women in. Sometimes it is a case of making spaces for women as like the gateway in, because I know a lot of people, like I've run Facebook groups that are for basically kind of non-binary people, women and trans men, as their entry into games, as a way to meet other people. And a lot of the time you need that kind of initial space to come into, to feel confident and build your confidence in that space. And then, because I know a lot of people who came there first and kind of then branched out further. So I think sometimes building those kind of spaces is really important. Anything we can do, and I mean, this will help just everyone, but I think it will especially help women. Anything you can do to just take down whatever barriers there might be to getting to information, whether that is making application processes more transparent and more easy to get, whether that is something I do is Skillshare streams. So I do streams where I'm just like, do you want to know how to use Twine? Because otherwise you're going to have to spend a lot of time looking all over the internet for how to do things. Here's a weekly stream where for an hour I'll show you how to do stuff. And obviously that will benefit multiple people, that kind of approach. But I think especially women, where there can be, as we've talked about, that additional difficulty with confidence of going into a space or learning a thing or seeking something out. Yeah, I think that's kind of, I don't have a neat button on the end of that. That's kind of where my thoughts are at.
Janet.
I think that so there are women in tabletop, and there are, so I look at the screen and I see relatively young faces. I even include myself in that. But there is even a generation above us of women in tabletop, but they are hidden. They are never the lead writer. They are never at the front. They are never the one on the stream answering the questions. And I think that visibility is so important. So yes, I go on Twitter and I have she, her pronouns, and I go on YouTube and I share my DM tips and I share my gaming tips and I share my narrative tips, because women need to be seen in this industry. And I think the women that are already there need to make sure that we are as visible as possible, so that the next generation coming up doesn't think, oh, they're only there because they are the wife of, or they're only there as the second or third list of writers, right? We need to be putting ourselves at the top. And we need to be leading by example. And I think that when opportunities come our way and we can share opportunities with others, I think everybody needs to remember, women, men, everybody, you know, that this is a space of lifting up, and that sometimes women just need a little bit of an extra shove because they have been told many times, don't be bossy. You don't believe the number of times that I've been told that I'm bossy. I'm not bossy. I have leadership qualities. It's fine, I'm okay with it, but it took me a long time to accept that, and I wasted a lot of time. You know, I don't want to see the next generation of women gamers wasting time worrying whether they should say yes, or worrying that they don't have leadership qualities. I want to see them stepping up and saying, well, I saw she did it, or they did it, so I can do it. And I think that that is a very positive step. And I also think keep listening, because somebody out there is going to have a great idea for how to get more women into gaming and how to get more representation into gaming, and you should listen. And I think that's a really important thing. So I'm always looking around for more ideas, just to lift people up, essentially. And I think that it's about that. It's about, you know, flying the flag and stepping up, and also making sure that everybody coming after has the support they need, whoever they are. Whether that support is, now hang on, you better proofread that, or whether the support is, I really think you should go for this, it is a great opportunity. These are
Good thoughts. So I know that quite a few of you use, sorry about the bird. There's a magpie outside as she's showing off. So a lot of you do streaming. You spoke about doing online stuff. How important do you think having that online presence is, and what are the audience like? What can new people expect if they're going to come on and start showing off board games or using it for marketing skills? What are people going to expect from that audience, and how do you sort of control that narrative?
So I think that there's a bit of a fiction surrounding games in general, and I love that Lauren talked about this. Not all games are made for all people. You know, not all books are written for all readers. That's awesome. That's okay. That is awesome. But also, not all streamers are made for all audiences. So I have a YouTube channel. I think we're almost at 25,000 viewers or something. It's not massive, but it's getting there. And I have people who like my style. There are also people who do not like my style. Since it's YouTube, they will tell me. And that's fine. That's okay. And I think it's really important to dig into that, to be like, okay, who am I? What is my unique selling point as a brand or as a personality or as a writer? What am I looking to do? And what are my unique selling points that will help me do the thing? And just be very analytical about it at the start. But be willing to experiment. And I would say this regardless of discipline, regardless of gender, regardless of anything. These are really, really crucial points. Be clear with who you are, be flexible with your experiments. It is a safe to fail environment. People expect streamers to try different things and video creators to try different things. Analyze what works, go from there. And yeah, make sure at the end of the day that the effort that you're putting in is driving you towards the goal that you want. Because if you end up with the biggest Minecraft following in the entire world, but what you actually want to do is write Jane Austen fanfic, they're not necessarily the most useful followers you could have. Maybe, but maybe not. So yeah, these are my thoughts on that process. You know, make sure that you're capitalizing on who you are and what you want to do, and make sure that you're taking actions that will serve your ultimate goal.
Chloe, yes.
Like when I started streaming, like my company, we only did it initially as an accessibility thing, because we were like, no one's going to sit here and watch 250 hours of one show. So we'll at least like make it available if people aren't in this country or aren't able to come to everything. And so it didn't initially start as like a kind of, this is our brand is streaming. But obviously it kind of, especially with the events of the last year, it became more so that. And yeah, kind of what Janet was saying was our big thing was we were always streaming like live theatre shows that had an audience, or us in a home studio. We were always in the same place, because it was typically people who were performers or very, very strong role players doing character-led stories that weren't kind of getting into like super crunchy mechanics. You were much more likely to see very kind of emotional scenes or things like that with the games. And so it became about being really clear with that being what we were about. And a lot of that, to be honest, my experience is, if it's ever possible, show rather than tell, especially because I come from a place where I was having to go up to theatre people and be like, no, this is also like really good. And people tell really cool stories, and it's just as valid a form of performance, and trying to like grab them by the lapels. And whenever I could get them in the room and watching it, they totally got it. But trying to describe it to someone abstractly was a nightmare. So using things like clips and having other means of communicating to people what you're about, rather than just telling them, if you can show them this really cool scene from your stream, or this little taster, or etc. etc. I think that helps a huge amount. And we basically had an audience that was very reflective of the people that we put on screen. We had a heavily queer and a heavily trans audience, especially because we had a lot of queer and trans players, and we also had a lot of queer and trans representation in world in the stories, which meant that, you know, we got a lot of feedback from people saying that meant they felt very comfortable there. They knew they'd be represented, and also that it was safe to be themselves there. And also we, of course, you know, you've got things like chat. If you're on Twitch or something, the entire world could technically come in and watch. You only have like very specific types of control over that. But we were quite lucky. And I think, you know, we didn't have many issues with, say, people coming on being like, that's not the right mechanic. because to be honest, if that was their vibe, they weren't going to stay for longer than like 30 seconds was what we kind of discovered. So that's been my experience with streaming and the kind of audiences we've had.
Yeah, so for streaming, there's a few things. I could talk for ages about this. So we stream on Twitch, but we also use several plugins to repost it on Facebook and YouTube, which I highly recommend. You want to reuse, recycle whatever content you create, reshare it. It's not just an hour that you spend, but that it's content that you can use forever and ever and ever. And if you upload it to YouTube, if you can, try to go back and add in, closed captioning to make it more accessible. It's great to include this audience as well, because I know I'm the kind of person who wants to just watch a video and have it be on mute and know what's going on. So that might just be me, but that's an option. And then, in terms of brand, if you are a new designer or you're just a person and you're not associated necessarily with a company, make you your own brand, be your own brand. People want to know you. And like Chloe said, those clips are great to show your audience who you are. And people want real photos. People don't want, isolated white background photos. They want to know how a game is going to live in their home, on their coffee table, on a bar top, in their bag, on their IKEA shelf. They want to know what that means, how it'll, how that product will live in their space, right? So that's a little bit of product photography tips. But also too, for streaming, for us, we have our games. There's two main virtual board game softwares out there. And the two ones are Tabletop Simulator, which you have to download through Steam. So there's a little bit more setup there. And the second one is Tabletopia, which is browser-based and free. So for us, we put most of our games on Tabletopia because we want our games to be consumer friendly. There's a less barrier to access, and Art Travels is on there actually right now, so you can play it for free. And then Tabletop Simulator, there is a higher barrier to access. There is a membership fee, but feedback that I've gotten from a lot of designers is that this is the preferred method for designing because it's easier to make copies and iterations of your design in that game without breaking the entire thing. So so depending on what your needs are, if you want just your game out there for people to play and to enjoy, Tabletop is great. Board Game Arena is another one, but Tabletop Simulator is a great option for designers. And there's plenty of tutorials, and Ben Moy is an amazing designer up in Illinois as well. And he did a great YouTube channel with Board Game Design Lab on how to set up and start building your game in Tabletop Simulator. So there are plenty of great resources out there to get you started on how to use the technology and to make cool stuff.
That's a really good point, one that I hadn't thought of with using the Tabletop Simulator things. Board Game Arena just been bought out by Asmodee, putting my Asmodee marketing hat on for a moment. So it's quite small at the moment, but there will be, you'll see over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of expansions going on with that as Asmodee Digital sort of moves into that space as well. So there'll be lots of new opportunities. Mary, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just really quick to add to what everyone was saying. I think it's an interesting question because I came from fine art and comics where I guess the understanding was that your Instagram or whatever it is just your art facing forward. And that was so, yes, that's important if that's what you want to do, but it did not feel right for me to the point where I was really happy once I just had a separate LLC entity apart from me so I can say professional, and here I am existing, making silly doodles for myself, and customize it a bit more that way. With streams, I I love breaking things down that I am working through, because again, I'm coming from that like maker space sort of mentality, from that fine art mentality of, if I didn't know how to do this, someone else probably doesn't know how to do this either, and it would only be helpful. But also in playing the games that I choose to play, I want to sort of have a critical eye about why I'm choosing to play it. Because I've never thought of games that way. Like, I've never thought of like, well, why am I interested in playing this? And I think you can learn a lot from that, from just how you curate the games that you enjoy. And I believe you can also do that through Steam and follow other companies like curation systems. And that will, I think, help teach you a lot about yourself and what you value and what you want to put out there.
Janet, you had your hand up as well at the same time, didn't you? So.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that streaming is great. Don't get me wrong. And again, like, I was an opera singer. I love being on the center of stage, making noises with my mouth hole. It's cool. I love it. I love hosting. I love playing improvised D&D games. I've done it as a profession. But not everybody feels that way. And that's also cool. So if you don't feel that way, if you're sitting in the chat thinking, holy crap, it looks cool, but I never could, that's okay. Try video, because video isn't editable, it's not live, so it's less stressful. Try streaming with other people, which is 1,000 times more fun as well. You get a great vibe going. You're having a conversation, right? And then people in the chat are also joining in. It's much less nerve-wracking than sitting there feeling like you have to fill airtime and you don't know what to say, which is, you know, it can be terrifying. Also, look at blogging, look at podcasts, like explore different media. If you're sitting there thinking, I don't feel comfortable showing my face for whatever reason, that's fine too, okay? You can also explore things like face rig technology, which I know a lot of streamers use. They find it less anxiety inducing to have a face rig than to use their own face. There are so many options. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I want to build a platform, I want to get my personality out there to show people who I am, who the person is behind the games, but I don't feel comfortable sitting in front of a camera just streaming by myself, do explore the options, because there are many. And once you feel comfortable in one medium, you may feel more comfortable in another one as well. It's yeah, it's a really good personal development skill, and it'll be a massive achievement if and when you get to where you want to be.
Hello, do you have something to add, Jess?
Yeah, so you mentioned, you know, exploring other mediums if you're an introvert. And actually that came up yesterday on Clubhouse. I don't know if you guys are in Clubhouse, but there is a board game group in Clubhouse now. And several introverts have said that they really like it because basically it's just an audio drop. Like, you just join in, you could just listen in. You don't necessarily have to raise your hand or participate at all. If you want to, you can, but you know, there is no pressure. You don't have to put on a full face of makeup. You could just, you know, literally lie in bed and respond to questions if you choose to, right? But a lot of introverts have spoken highly about that app and being able to at least speak up on you know, their game design thoughts and industry news, and it's a great app. Another thing that I know a lot of introverts in the industry like to do, you know, they do other things that are not necessarily like front facing, like content creation, like video editing and product photography. A lot of the product reviewers too are just, they write and then they take the photos. They don't even show their faces. Like, I don't even know what some of the reviewers I've worked with even look like in person, but they have an awesome macro lens and they take the best close-up photos of those meeples or whatever dice, and they post it on their Instagram, and that is their, you know, that is their content, and their brand is really focusing on, you know, component design and the quality of the product, not necessarily themselves as a brand. So when I said earlier, make yourself the brand, it's totally, if you're an extrovert, there are other ways to brand yourself, and it could be, you know, product focused and not necessarily front facing. So there's a way to participate in the industry, no matter how outspoken you are or not.
Excellent. So I think we've got lots of questions coming into the Q&A, which is probably about the right time to start it. But just before we go in, I'm going to just go around, and I'd just like you all to just very briefly tell me, what's your favourite game of all time? I'll start. Oh no, I won't. I'm going to go last because I can't think of anything. But you all.
I saw this question, and so I thought about it beforehand because I knew I'd find it too hard. And I'm going to go super niche because I am an artsy theatre person at heart. Queers in Love at the End of the World is a game by Anna Anthropy that takes 10 seconds to play. And that's not me like over-egging it. It's a timed game. But the amount it does in 10 seconds never ceases to like throw me. And I think it is just such a beautiful use of the tech that it has. It's like a text adventure game. But yeah, so mine, just for like being a perfect like tiny little gem, is Queers in Love at the End of the World.
Who's next?
I'll go next. Oh gosh, this is such a tough question because I could just stare and gawk at my IKEA shelf and pick so many games. But one game that I will have to pick because I'm both a technologist and a gamer is Chronicles of Crime. I think it is an excellent game. If you are interested in digital app or mobile app design, it is a game where you're basically solving crimes and then you find clues, and there's a little VR or AR aspect of the game where you could actually look around and check out the crime scene. And then you scan the QR codes that are attached to the cards for clues, and and you could also leverage certain characters like the forensic scientists to find out if there's anything fishy with this whatever knife. Anyway, it's a great game, wonderful execution, exciting space really for all games, analog and digital, and I think a beautiful intersection of that, and really inspiring product design as a both digital and analog product owner. It's really wonderful, so check it out.
Mary, yes.
I think it's a hard question, but I'm going to go with Space Team because Space Team, just every single time we play it, it's a mobile game. I think you can also play it on your iPad and stuff too. But we haven't brought up immersion once, but boy, does it feel exactly like just trying to work with a team and working on communication skills and having a really good time as things are going really terribly. It's just so fun.
And Janet.
Yeah, I think it's me. This is a really hard question to answer, so I'm gonna have to go category by category, and I offer no explanations. Skyrim is my favorite video game forever. Die Hard, Dragonborn, I can't even help myself. Favorite RPG game currently is Through the Breach by Weird Games. Freaking love it, freaking love the mechanics. I got to play a mad opera singer, and it just worked. Like, it fits. You could be anything insane. I loved it. Favorite tabletop game, either Dixit because it's so wacky, or Catan because I name all the meeples and then give them all backstories, and or even the sheep. Everything has a name. Yeah, it gets very, very intense chronologies and histories, and then the Vikings come. The Vikings all have names as well. The thief has a name. Everything has a name. I'm writing a novel, basically. It's great fun. And yeah, Space Team, I think for mobile game, wins hands down. Holy crap, yes. Yeah, I think that's it. Too hard to choose one.
And I picked mine. Board game, Betrayal at House on the Hill. I love the idea that together you all work together in a haunted house, and then ultimately someone betrays everyone else and you have to try and survive. That's one of my favorites. Video game, the Mass Effect trilogy, because I love Femshep for life, and Garrus is my space husband. And I don't know any other. Yeah, that's it. That's my two favorite games. But we did it! Yay! Yes. So now we have some questions from the chat. I don't know. Dan, is this
Yeah, I
you?
was to say, I think if you can hear me, yes, you can. Hurrah! That's been really weird for me to stay quiet for that entire thing, I have to say. Oh, yeah, really great. I really enjoyed the sort of back and forth that you had going on there as well. It was fantastic. So I know the students have been really inspired by it. We've got some fantastic questions. So I'm going to hit them pretty quickly because there's quite a lot of them to go through, and we've not got huge amounts of time. So can I just get the Q&A questions up on my screen just so I can see them? Perfect, right. And if you could just scroll them up slightly, person that's scrolling them, because I can do it with my hands like this, it's quite good. Perfect. There we go, just so I can see the top ones, because the top ones were the ones I wanted to go through first. There we go, perfect. I've got a question here from Emily Burge for Chloe. Emily identifies as non-binary. Did you find it easy to come out to your work teams, and have you found that your identity has affected your work in regards to how people interact with you? Has it hindered you in any way? It's one of the things that stopped me from being so open about who I am, in fears that it will affect my future career.
So Emily, first off, just like Mary and Lauren said earlier, I don't have my DMs open, but if you either at Chloe Masheter me, or if you go to my website, chloemashetermakesthings.wordpress.com, then there's ways of contacting me, and I am happy to talk about this at like further length, because like massive amounts of support. I'm sorry to hear that at the moment it's stopping you being open about who you are. I was very lucky / fortunate in the fact that a lot of my working life, I've been the one creating spaces that I work in, whether that's like directing a show or whether that's building a company that streams games. And because that company was always heavily kind of active on trans representation and such, like it meant that I was already surrounded by quite a lot of people who were either non-binary or trans in some way, or they were people that were actively supportive. So I was still incredibly terrified of coming out, but I've been really fortunate in that so far my experiences have been purely positive. Like the only time it's come up so far is a colleague checking whether I feel comfortable playing a female character in an online interactive show, and us talking about that. And to be honest, also for me, the tabletop world, I know so many people, I don't know if that's a particular area of games that you're interested in, but for me, the tabletop world, there's so many people who I know have used tabletop games to explore their own sense of gender. That actually there's a really huge proportion of people who are part of that industry who are genderqueer or questioning or exploring their gender. And so it's kind of been a potentially nicer place for me to come out in. So yeah, like I say, I've been incredibly fortunate. But yes, if it's concerning you about affecting your future career, or if you ever have any other questions, or if you just want to like chat, I am absolutely here. And I think you'll find that as a non-binary person, you will be able to find other non-binary people, because we all kind of want to be there for each other, and help each other out, because we know that it can be really difficult. I hope that's a decent answer.
It sounded great. I think just that idea of being able to contact and just reach out to people is really important, especially at the moment. That leads on to a nice question from Jess as well. Jess has asked how you all keep motivated. I think that's a really pertinent question at the moment, because obviously it's very difficult for everyone to keep motivated, and it's why it's great to see you all here doing great stuff and still being able to be involved in the industry, even though we're in this weird time, missing things like conventions and missing just being able to game with friends and things like that as well. So how are you keeping motivated at the moment? Any tips for our students to keep them motivated?
I think the best way is to try and like be within the community. So I mean, you don't have to be super active and contacting people all the time, but the community that is available to you online, especially on Twitter, is really wonderful and open and understanding, and people are there to raise each other up. There is very few times where I put something on there that's not been like board game related, just like I am having a rubbish day, where people haven't then like reached out to me in my DM just to want to talk it over with me. It is difficult. I mean, especially for me, I'm trying to market books in a time when there are no bookshops open. It's very difficult to sell books when there's no bookshops. But just for me, I just, I believe in the product that we're making. The books are fantastic. We've got fantastic authors, and there is like, ebooks are available. It's just, for me, I just have to keep reminding myself that the thing that I'm making, I believe in, I have a passion for, and that I believe that other people who are following me, who are in my community, will also enjoy these books as well. But yeah, having that community behind you is really important. I mean, I don't know how many people, I live at home. I literally moved to Nottingham like 5 weeks before the pandemic hit. I live on my own, and like the beginning of it was super tough for me because I didn't know anyone, hadn't had a chance to go out and meet anyone. But having the support system of the internet, having sort of my teammates sort of always checking on me, and that's really what's kept me motivated through the whole thing, to just keep going and keep pushing these books and playing games and talking about the things that I love.
Fantastic. Yep. Chloe. Yep. I think Chloe's hand was up.
Super quickly to throw in before Lauren. I just want to say that I'm not motivated every day. And I think it's kind of important to say that. Literally 3 weeks ago, my partner was consoling me while I was going, I can't do it. I don't want to do anything today. Because sometimes it's easy to have an image of a very specific image of success or people doing well. And if you never hear about the side of it that isn't going well, you'll just think that you're not doing it right when you don't feel kind of perfect. But I think what Anjali touched on is I find being able to talk to people about my projects really motivating. One of the biggest things about having a mentor on a project at the moment is I know that at least every 2 weeks, I'm going to be able to talk about it, and just talking about it afresh excites me rather than it just solely living in my head.
Did Lauren have one as well?
Yeah. Like Chloe said, I have my lazy days, and I believe that rest is progress for you. And you have to listen to yourself to know that not every day you're going to be firing on all cylinders. You have to take rest. You have to take care of yourself first in order to build cool stuff, right? And I think that's really important, and that's something my team does. It's like I will straight up tell my coworkers at XYZ, my co-owners at XYZ, and say, hey, I need a reset. And they know exactly what that means. And they will not bother me for 3 days. And they'll let me just do what I need to do for myself and for the sake of the team. So that's one thing. 2, I like lists. And for me, making lists, I like, even if it's the smallest thing, read this email, okay? And I cross off that list and I feel, yes, I just read that email and I'm freaking killing it today. And I celebrate every little victory, because, tasks, especially when you're in a startup like I am, can get super overwhelming. And you could feel like you're buried under all this pressure. And really it's just you know what? It's just 3 things. It's just 3 things. And I'm going to get these 3 things done. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to be celebrating it. And celebrate every little victory, because it really is progress, no matter how small it is. And even if it's not as much as you want to do, you did something and you should be proud of yourself. And not that many people would do that thing that you just did. So, you just gotta be very forgiving of yourself, just in general in this time, because, I fail a lot. and I embrace my failures because it's only made me a better person. And if I didn't forgive myself, I would not be here where I am today. So just be kind.
That's great. Thank you. That's really helpful. Can we just scroll the questions down just slightly so I can just see some more? Thank you very much. That would be good. Yeah.
Can I just add something to that question? Is that all right?
Yes, you can. Yeah, feel free.
Know yourself. Know when you're at your best. Some people are morning people, some people are evening people. That's cool. Optimize your own self for your own success, and learn when to apply the carrot and when to apply the stick. So sometimes, yeah, you don't want to do the thing, but the thing needs doing. So you will sit down for 25 minutes and you will do the thing, and then you will go eat chocolate. And sometimes you need to know when you just need to give yourself a rest, and nobody else can know that. That's something that you need to be, it's a very touchy-feely thing to say. You need to be very in touch with yourself. You need to learn from your own failures and your own successes. If you see, I wrote a list of 3 things, I got them all done and I felt great, that is a thing that you should do tomorrow. Make a note of it. Put a post-it with 3 bullet points that you are going to fill in with things. If you see, I am super, super active in the evening, that is when I am at my most analytical, that is when I should be answering emails. Answer emails then. That's when you should do it. Don't listen to somebody else's advice. At the end of the day, all we can do is suggest. You need to find what works for you. So I'm not saying don't listen to these amazing women on the screen. What I'm saying is try it and don't take somebody else's truth. Figure out what's working for you, because at the end of the day, we are all different. Our biochemistry peaks at different times during the day. Like, different things are hard or rewarding for us, So that's just something to bear in mind. Like find your own rhythm and learn to rely on that.
I think that's really important at the moment as well, because we tend to get focused on ourselves, don't we? Because everything's so isolated at the moment. So you've kind of got to think about yourself a little bit more. So I've got a good question here from Liam Hayes. He says, are women stereotyped in the board game community just as much as in the digital community? And how can we sort of prevent that happening across both communities, really? Open to all.
Yes, that's the answer. Yes.
There's some
yes,
nodding, yes, vigorous nodding.
Yes, unfortunately, women are stereotyped across this industry as much as they are in video game industry, war game industry. If you haven't noticed, there are so many miniatures of barbarians and cool looking men, and then there are ladies still in their chainmail bikinis, because apparently that's how we roll. If you're looking I'm going to do a little plug here for my friend Annie, Bad Squiddo Games, Nottingham based. If you're looking for miniatures of realistic women of history, you want to go to Bad Squiddo Games, because she makes miniatures of realistic women.
Some fantastic miniatures as well. Yeah.
She is an amazing woman. She runs a business all by herself. She's been running it all the way through the pandemic, just her in her office, creating awesome miniatures. So yeah, she's trying to break that stereotype, but unfortunately, yes, that stereotype exists, mainly because the industry is still run by beardy old men, and that's what they like, and they get to make those decisions. So probably one of the main ways to prevent it is to go in and fight to get high enough that you can make a choice and you can make the changes that we need to see. It's tough. It's not going to happen overnight, but if enough women are there kicking the door down, then they're going to have to stop ignoring us soon.
And this is the new generation, is exactly who we're talking to right now. You
Yes,
students,
do it for us.
You are the people who are going to change things, not us old people like me, or the slightly younger people like yourselves in the panel, but you're the generation that are going to change things. And I think it's really important that you're getting all this great content in Industry Week this week. So I have got, I'm just conscious of time. We've only probably got time for a couple more questions, I think. So we've got a couple of questions about sort of Twitch and just sort of growing fan base in general. And I guess, YouTube as well to a certain extent. Have you got any tips for sort of growing your sort of streaming fan base? We've got a lot of students who are really actively interested in streaming. It's probably worth me plugging as well that the talk after this one at 5 o'clock is Garvey, who's one of the key Twitch players in the UK. So, well, players, not players, people from Twitch, I suppose, is probably more appropriate for Garvey. Certainly there'll be some Twitch questions for later on, but I just wondered if we can sort of widen that in terms of streaming in general. Any tips for our avid streamers or budding streamers in the student body? Thank you.
So we stream 3 times a week as World Anvil. We go live to generally 150 concurrent users. Sometimes that will go up to 300 or 500. If we do a special event, that's been up to 1,000. The reason is that we are consistent and we listen to our people, and our stream is a conversation. So I think if you go and stream and you tell people what you think they need to know, and you're not paying attention to the chat and you're not open to building your community, then essentially you're screaming into the void. There are more effective ways to do that which don't take up your bandwidth. So yeah, I would say make sure that you are listening to your audience, make sure that you are making your audience feel heard. And I would also add, if you possibly can, moderate carefully or find a friend who can help you moderate, because there are people who will jump into a small Twitch channel and spout all kinds of crap. And yeah, it's not helpful. They need to go. Like, trolls live on the internet, but they don't have to live in your stream chat. So there is space for education depending on what they say, but if they are unhelpful, then yeah, then just give them a kick, because they don't need to be in your channel. And if they're making people feel unsafe, then they shouldn't be there. So yeah, just consistency, make sure it's a conversation.
Great. Yep. Chloe?
A couple of things. Remember that Twitch is a community of makers as well. There are things where you can be on teams with other people where you'll automatically host each other. If you're not streaming, you'll be showing their stuff. And I think that supporting other streamers and thinking about the other streamers on the platform and how you can work with them and support each other and lift each other up is really useful in terms of growing your audience. Yeah, what Janet said about consistency, a huge thing. Like, if people can know that you are going to be streaming, then that's massive. And I'd say kind of further down the line, the company I co-ran that did a lot of streaming, we started our kind of audience was slow and steady. And then we started being hosted by Wizards on their official channel, and we had some kind of collaborations with games like Idle Champions and things like that, which really kind of exploded. But I think the big thing about those is those did not happen overnight. That was months of getting to know people, them getting to know what our content was like, making sure it was the same. Because the thing is, for instance, with Idle Champions, that brought hundreds, even thousands sometimes, of people into the stream. But it was about the people that stayed, because there was that overlap of people that really liked what we did and were also into Idle Champions. If we'd partnered with something where there was no overlap, you need to also like collaborate and look at who is doing similar stuff where there will be an audience overlap. But yeah, those are some of the kind of the bigger ways of how we grew, but that is much further down the line, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the idea of community, as you said at the beginning, it's really important that we network and students network, and most people nowadays online are available to talk to, and you can build some really great links just by having a chat really to people, which is why it's great to have you guys here today and talking to the students. It's been really good. So I think we're pretty much out of time now. So I'm just going to say thank you to everybody for being involved in terms of the panelists. It's been really enlightening for the students, and I found it really interesting all the way through. So some really great points raised. If the panelists can just hang around at the end, that would be great, because we've got a little debrief thing to do with me, just a few questions and things like that. There'll be some comments coming in now, students. So this is the point where we would normally applaud and do all that kind of stuff, but we have to do virtual applause and people typing clap a lot in the chat, which is a strange new world that we live in. Look at that, loads of comments coming into the chat now. I love this bit. I'd also like to plug the events that we've got tomorrow as well while we're here. So we've got Jacob Mills tomorrow, who's a great game designer, and I'm not sure if he's friends with any of you, but he is with some of the other panelists that we've had so far. We've also got Wodge from CD Projekt Red, which is quite exciting. So he's a concept artist for CD Projekt Red. We've got Andy Davis. We've also got Sam Cook from Esports Insider tomorrow. And there's also, most importantly, the board game jam tomorrow as well. So we're doing a one-day board game jam where they're going to come up with a board game or card game from scratch, and students are welcome to get involved in that as well. So that's going to be a really exciting one-day event tomorrow as well. Obviously, loads more stuff throughout the week as well. If you're interested in any of the events, students, go onto the Industry Week website and get yourselves booked in there as soon as you can. Without further ado, I'd like to say thank you very much to Anjali for organising this, because it's been a really insightful panel, and it's great to get people involved from different places as well. I think that's really nice. So thank you. I'm not quite sure what time it is in your place of the world, but I appreciate you being here. And hopefully when we do it again next year, it will be able to do something like this, maybe with some people in person as well. But I think it's been really great to get you involved in this, and the students, I think, have really appreciated it, judging by the comments there. So thank you very much. And so thank you to the students as well for participating and asking so many great questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get all of them in there, but as I say, I'm sure the guests will be happy if you wanted to contact them, especially with the sort of more personal things. I'm sure they're open to that, so feel free to do that. Okay, students, so if you want to jump off, students, and leave my panelists with me, we have a little bit of a debrief to do. So I think what happened last time in the students just get kicked out ruthlessly by the techs. So we'll just hang around for a few minutes, and I'll just ask you some debrief questions. Okay, thanks all the students. See you later.